Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at a video by a new band. We're going to be looking at a band called Soara. Now, when I woke up this morning I found this email in my, emails as you would, and normally I wouldn't do an immediate reaction to something, because I do have other suggestions floating around. But when I read the email when I read this email and the description of the video attached, it's something I felt I had to have a look at rather immediately. So, to tell you a little bit about the band, it's a two-man project comprised of Akhilesh Rao and Karthik Ramasubramanian, originally from Mumbai and Chennai, India. They currently reside in San Francisco Bay Area, however. The band was formed by Rao in Brooklyn, New York in 2015 as a one-man instrumental project inspired by his need to make a difference to society using lustrous art, intense imagery, and most importantly, decisive action. And this was central to the creation of the band. Now, they released their first EP called Dharm on the 2nd of October, so just like 3 days ago. And it features Hans Grossman, ex-necrophagist, Triptychon, Alkaloid, Blotted Science on the drums. So, they've got quite a high-profile name there sitting on the drums. Now, we're going to be looking at a track today called Tezaab. And from what I understand, viewer discretion for this video is advised. There was a warning at the beginning of this video, but I'm just going to reiterate it now, because this song does contain some quite disturbing imagery, as far as I understand, and it does describe some rather disturbing incidents. To shed a little light on that, the name of the song, Tezaab, means acid, as far as I'm aware. So, and I know the subject matter of this song, but we'll talk about that afterwards. But anybody who might be of a delicate disposition may not want to watch this video. You might want to skip forward. I'll put a time code in the description below if you want to skip the video and just hear my talking about it afterwards. But yeah, so we'll jump into it now. So we'll look at a track called Tezaab by Soara. Here we go.
लेना मालूम कर दिया है। और मैं एक एनजीओ है दौलत खान का, मैं दौलत जी का, तो उस एनजीओ का, हमारे एनजीओ का नाम है एसेट साहस फाउंडेशन। प्लीज़ इस टाइम आपको पता है, आप लोगों को लॉकडाउन का टाइम है, लॉकडाउन हो रहा है, इतनी ज़्यादा हमारे एसेट अटैक लड़कियों को बहुत ज़्यादा परेशानी है। देखिए बहुत सारा लड़कियों को क्या होता है, दोनों आँखें भी नहीं है, घर पे 3-3 महीना का किराया चढ़ गया, हमें हर महीना में 7 से 8 हज़ार का मेडिसिन चाहिए होता है, फिर घर में खाने का राशन भी चाहिए होता है। तो आप लोग सोच सकते हैं, हम लोग 40 और दो लड़की हम जुड़े हुए हैं इस एनजीओ से। हम यही कहना चाहते हैं, प्लीज़ हमारी एनजीओ को मदद की इस टाइम बहुत ज़रूरत है। अगर इनको मदद करेंगे, जो भी हमारे पास मदद आएंगे, तो मेरा आप लोगों से हाथ जोड़ के गिनती है, हम लोग इस टाइम बहुत तकलीफ में और बहुत परेशान हूँ। प्लीज़ आप लोग मदद के लिए आगे आइए और हमारे एनजीओ को, साहस फाउंडेशन को आप लोग मदद करिए। मेरी हाथ जोड़ के गिनती है, प्लीज़ आप लोग मदद के लिए आगे आइए और मदद करिए कि आपका छोटा सा मदद से होगा। नहीं तो हमारे मकान मालिक किराए देने का धमकी हो रहा है, हमारा दवाई भी नहीं आ पा रहा है इस टाइम। हम लोग इस टाइम लॉकडाउन का टाइम में बहुत तकलीफ और बहुत परेशानी के साथ चल रहा है। थैंक यू, धन्यवाद बहुत, आप लोग मदद कीजिए प्लीज़, थैंक यू।
Jesus Christ. That is heavy. And I mean emotionally heavy. Well, musically heavy as well, but you know, the subject matter of that song is it's very disturbing. And interestingly enough, several years ago, back when I was with my previous band Repulsive Vision, we actually had a song. We'd actually written a song that covered a similar subject. We wrote a song called Force-Fed Acid, which was pretty much about a very similar subject as we're talking about here. And as you could see from the end of that video there, you know, it's ridiculous how many people there are suffering from that. In fact, I did a little bit of research about the subject of this video, knowing that it was about these acid attacks and what have you. And I mean, these acid attacks are called, you know, they're perpetrated for the fact of maybe like jealousy, you know, like maybe another guy, you know, a woman of desire is with another guy and some guy can't handle it, so he's like, if I can't have her, no one can. Acid, you know, that sort of thing, you know. Or it's because maybe a member of the family went against the wishes of that family, you know, and this sort of thing, you know, sort of goes along with the whole honour killings thing. That I mean, that sort of thing was in the news quite a bit a few years ago. So you know, it's very similarly related subjects here, and as you can see at the end of the video there, that woman is in what I can only imagine is like a hostel with 42 women, 42 people, and they're struggling at the moment because, you know, their medications are costing nearly like $100, and then they're having to ration food. They're having difficulty paying their rent because of this whole worldwide crisis at the moment. But I did do a bit, like I said, I did a little bit of research, and I read here, between 1999 and 2013, a total of 3,512 people in Bangladesh alone were attacked with acid. In 2016, there were 601 similar acid attacks in the UK. Over 1,200 cases were recorded over 5 years from 2011 and 2016. And there were 1,464 crimes involving acid in London alone. So, you know, this is a very prevalent threat. You know, this is still going on. You know, like I said, the numbers here I've only got up until 2016. But, you know, 1,464 cases in London alone. And this isn't even like the core of where these attacks are most common, you know. Over in India and Asia, because they do happen mostly in India and Asia, as I'm given to understand. You know, so if those are the numbers over here, what are the numbers like over there? You know, it's unbelievable. So, you know, it's very disturbing, but it is a very real problem that is going on. So that's quite quite disturbing. But as for the song, it was very, very interesting. You know, it had the only sort of direct comparison I can really make is to Bloodywood, obviously also being of a similar sort of genre, and you know, fellow countrymen. Now, with Bloodywood, they've gone for more traditional music style and a different vocal style, whereas here we've gone for more traditional vocal style and a sort of more heavy metal based music style. So that, you know, the song opened with that sort of very, I can't think of how to describe it, a sort of very traditional sounding sort of Indian style of singing. You know, the sort of thing you would immediately associate with India. Over some very heavy and at times rather prog sounding guitar work. And like I said, you've got Grossman from Triptychon and Necrophagist there on the drums, you know, adding those amazingly powerful drums. So, you know, the music was really quite heavy and a very, very interesting and different style of vocals from anything I've heard before. Now, the song, there were subtitles, but the actual lyrics went, if you didn't actually read the subtitles, it said, "Burning like embers, my eyes and my body. Acid cannot stall my courage, my will. You acted without a thought. What was my fault to deserve this acid on my face? Are these facial scars now my identity? My face burned, my whole body writhes in pain. I don't recognise myself. Is this my reflection? Are these facial scars now my identity? These people laughing at me feels like strangulation. It must have been this girl's fault. What a disgrace. Are these facial scars now my identity? Let me tell you this, I will not admit defeat. My courage will not be broken. I am a strong woman. My mind and body might have been burned to ash. Everyday existence now a battle to survive. I will be reborn from these ashes and burn bright like a light in the dark storms. There's a storm brewing inside. Courage is taking flight. There is hope. Perseverance is my identity." So it's a very, very powerful song, very empowering song for the victims of these attacks. Now, from what I understand, the victims of these attacks is mostly women. It does happen to men, but I think it was something like 80% of these attacks happen to women. So this is being told from the perspective of a woman who has been a victim of one of these crimes. And, you know, they're describing the feeling and the reactions that they get from, like, everyday life. And, you know, there's a couple of really important lines in there. It's like, you acted without a thought. What was my fault to deserve this acid on my face? Like, you know, you haven't thought how this is going to affect me in my everyday life. What could I have possibly done so badly to you that I deserved to be severely disfigured? I mean, in the clip at the end of that video where they were talking to that woman, she said most of the victims, including herself, didn't have eyes anymore because they had been sort of burned and, you know, just ruined by this acid. You know, so these people, you know, are struggling to survive because, you know, they've lost some of their senses. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if there were like residual burns to like nasal passages in their throat, which would probably prevent, you know, smell and taste as well. You know, it wouldn't surprise me. You know, so, you know, these are horrific things, and it's like, what could someone possibly do so wrong to deserve that? You know, if you're jealous because the object of your desire is with someone else, it doesn't deserve something that severe. You know, that's disgusting. And, you know, like I said, it carried on, my face burned, my whole body writhes in pain. You know, so describing how she feels, and now it's like, is this my reflection? Are these scars now my identity? Is this who I am now? And there's this really important bit here. These people laughing at me feels like strangulation. It must have been the girl's fault. What a disgrace. So, you know, it's become such an everyday thing that rather than looking at the person like, oh, what's happened to this person? What could have, this poor person been violently attacked? They're now looking at them going, well, they've obviously done something to deserve this attack. What could she have? What has she done to deserve that? She's obviously done something really cruel and really heinous, because, maybe she's led someone on and then jilted them at the last minute. Maybe she's used them for, to get money from them and then, turned her back on them and whatever, So now, rather than seeing the victim as the victim, they're now seeing them as, someone who has done something evil and has been punished for that evil. It shouldn't be that way. Attacking someone with a corrosive substance, there's no excuse for that in any way, shape or form. It's horrific. But then it goes on and, it says things like, let me tell you this, I will not admit defeat, my courage will not be broken. So she's going, no matter what's happened to me, I may have been scarred, I may have been burned, I may have these horrific injuries, but I'm not going to let them defeat me. I'm going to stand up, I'm going to rise, I'm going to be stronger, I'm going to push forward, and I am going to survive. I'm not going to let this define me. I'm not going to let this be all that I am. I'm going to prove people that I am strong, that I can carry on in spite of this. And there was that last bit. My body my body and mind might have turned to ash. Everyday existence is now a battle to survive. I will be reborn in these ashes and burn bright like a light in the dark storm. There's a storm brewing inside. Courage is taking flight. There is hope. Perseverance is my identity. So it's I may have suffered this traumatic injury. I may be, in pain constantly. Every day it's difficult. I'm constantly in pain, but I am going to rise like a phoenix from the ashes and be the best I can possibly be. I will not let this knock me down, and I will persevere, because, throughout the song they're saying, are these facial scars my identity? And at the very end it says perseverance is my identity. So, the idea of pushing on and living through this horrific injury, that's who they are. They are not defined by their disfigurement. They're not defined by their injuries. So, it's a very, very powerful song, and it's covering a very delicate subject, but it's one of those things, it's been going on for years, as for a very, very long time. I mean, the figures I had were only from 1999 to 2016, and that was just from a very brief look into it. I didn't go hugely in depth. So very, very powerful, and they said they're very much in support of that charity that was spoken about at the very end of the video there, to try and help these people, because they're really struggling at this time in the world, with the pandemic and this and that and the other. They can't afford their medications, they can't afford their rent, so it's very, very powerful, and yeah. It's, yeah. So, I really don't know where to go with this, because it is it's such a shocking thing, to know that sort of thing still goes on, and to see that such vast numbers of people are suffering at the hands of people like this, It's unbelievable. But, again, this is another group very much like Bloodywood that are actively working with charities to try and help people that are struggling, to help people that are suffering. And, then they said, they wanted to help society through their music. And, music is one of those things. It's an all-encompassing thing. Pretty much everybody listens to music. And songs like this with such powerful and strong messages are what we need. You know, it's really important that people learn and understand about these things so we can try and put a stop to these sorts of things. Because, I mean, seeing people being attacked in such a way, I mean, you look at the woman at the end of that video, you know, she had no eyes, she was really badly burnt across her face. You know, what could she have possibly done to deserve such a hideous and nightmarish attack? I mean, can you imagine the agony of having something like sulfuric acid thrown into your face? You know, and, you know, between the time of that getting thrown in the face and medical attention coming, you know, like professional medical attention like an ambulance, how long will that take? How long was that acid burrowing into the muscle tissues and, you know, skeletal structure of their face? You know, that is not something that's very easily neutralized. You know, it's unbelievable. Shocking. Whew. So yeah, that is quite a strong, powerful and shocking song with a very strong and powerful video along with it. But I'm not sure what else I can possibly say on that. So I'll leave that as it is. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or even through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would help me out greatly. There is an option on Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire. There is a couple of restrictions on that, though, just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through regular means, such as like through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube comments. But the option is there. If you do suggest a track through those regular means, through Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, do know it might take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many tracks every single day. That, you know, I can't record videos fast enough, but I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it. Also, Metalhead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those involving people of the alternative culture. But, you know, they want to put an end to all hate crimes, but their main focus is attacks on people of the alternative culture, and it's something I believe in very, very strongly, something I'm very, very passionate about, because it's something that gets widely ignored, something that very rarely ever gets spoken about. And when I say attacks on people of the alternative culture, I'm not talking about like getting, you know, intentionally shoulder rammed in the street, or getting shoved into doorways of shops as they're walking past, or names being shouted at them from across the street. I'm talking about real violent crimes where people are getting brutally attacked, you know, and beaten so severely that they're ending up getting hospitalized with broken limbs and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries. And, you know, this is an issue, this is a problem that's been going on for decades, and never gets addressed. Nothing ever gets said, nothing ever gets done. And, you know, the last time there was any widespread coverage of this sort of thing happening was 13 years ago. And Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people who beat them, punched them, knocked them to the ground, stamped on their heads so viciously and so violently that they both ended up in a coma. Now, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived this attack. He was in a coma for around about a week, possibly a bit longer. I can't remember exactly how long, but he survived. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, was in a coma for 13 days until she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and she was beaten to death. She was murdered just because of her taste in music. And that was 13 years ago. And since that time, we've never heard a single thing more. But I know for a fact that multiple crimes like this have happened, and we've just never heard a single thing about it because no one's died, and that is unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before we talk about this sort of thing. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before we actually do something about this. You know, every day we hear about all these other hate crimes, from sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, etc. You know, we hear these every single day, from the most heinous and violent of these crimes, where someone is murdered because of the colour of their skin, or their religious beliefs, or their sexual identity, down to the most pathetic of these crimes, where entitled white women are calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. You know, we hear these every single day on every media platform. But we don't hear a goddamn thing about people getting brutalised and beaten to within an inch of their life because of their taste in music. And, you know, these aren't just little petty crimes that you can just brush aside. These are real, violent crimes. You know, and why are they getting ignored? You know, it's like, by ignoring it, by not doing anything about it, we're essentially just letting these people get away with it. It's like, yeah, you carry on. You beat that person to a bloody pulp because you don't like their music. It doesn't matter, because, you know, we're not going to do anything about it. Why? Why is it ignored? Why isn't something getting done? This needs to change, you know. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before something gets done about this. You know, we can't let what happened to Sophie Lancaster ever happen again. It should never have happened in the first place. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this is happening. You know, they want more people to realise what, you know, that this is actually a very real problem. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks. And I think it's something, I think it's really, really, really important, you know, because, you know, it's something I've never understood. You know, I just can't get my head around the fact that people think that it is okay to violently attack someone and beat them every shade of the whatever, you know, just because of their taste in music. I mean, you don't attack someone because they like different films or TV shows to you. You don't attack someone because they like different books or magazines to you. You don't attack someone because they like different flavour crisps or different flavour ice cream to you, do you? So what is it about music that brings this out in people? What is it about the music that makes people think that it's an acceptable thing to beat someone almost to death? It boggles my mind. It's never made any sense to me. I mean, I've been beaten black and blue more times than I can count, just because of the fact that I have long hair, because of the fact that I listen to heavy metal music, because of the fact I wear like heavy metal band t-shirts and a leather jacket. You know, it completely boggles my mind. And, you know, Sophie Lancaster Foundation, I want to bring more attention to this. They want more people talking about it so we can get something done about it, so that what happened to Sophie Lancaster and Rob Melby will never happen again. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can pop over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it be like a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands, or maybe even this one, should you so desire it, you know, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we bring more attention to this, the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.